It is the 16th of October, 2021. Welcome to the Christian History Almanac, brought to you by 1517 at 1517.org. I'm Dan Van Voris. Hey, so if you're listening in Poland right now, I'd like to be the first to wish you a very happy Pope John Paul II Day. They do this in honor of that first Polish pope who was elected to the office of the papacy by the College of Cardinals on this day in 1978. Now, if you ask any millennial, elder millennial, or Gen X or boomer about the Pope, there's a good chance that they, and well, we, think of that diminutive, smiling Pole, Karol Wojtyla. The third longest-serving pope behind Peter and Pius IX, he was in office from 1978 until his death in 2005. With those many years in office, you might expect records, controversy, adulation, so let's break down just a few of those things. He was born in Poland during a period of independence, but was present for the invasions of both Hitler and Stalin. His distaste for authoritarianism in those forms seemed to have fueled a good bit of his Cold War diplomacy. He also played an important role in the global Catholic Church, and perhaps it's his international work which make him really a one-of-a-kind pope. Now, consider this. He was the first non-Italian pope in over 450 years. Think about that, and what that has to say about the Church and the Church Universal and the Catholic Church. Now, he also had a Jewish girlfriend as a young man, and he would reminisce about her later. He grew up in proximity to Auschwitz, and this made him more sensitive to the horrors of the Holocaust and to anti-Semitism. He apologized for the lack of action by the Church during the Holocaust, and apologized to all people who had suffered at the hands of the Church. He was the first pope to enter a synagogue and the first pope to enter a mosque. It's estimated that he traveled roughly the equivalent of to the moon and back 3 times. He visited 129 countries, reestablished Vatican diplomatic relationships with many countries, including Britain. There had been a separation since the time of Henry VIII. He established relations with the White House and was the first pope to go to the White House. On account of his travels and the large crowds to which he spoke, one biographer has suggested that no single person has ever preached to more people in person in their life. Now, the methodology for figuring that out might get tricky, but take the point. Few people in history have been heard live and have been as recognizable. His relationship with conservative American evangelicals marked a new chapter in the American Protestant-Catholic relationship. It was one time unthinkable that a Catholic could be president. Remember, Catholics were the targets of the KKK. Anti-Catholicism was an American scourge. But when the newly formed religious right saw an ally in the Pope, it was a new ballgame. John Paul wrote against abortion, which engendered him to the American right, although it is interesting that in that same argument, he wrote against birth control and the death penalty, and those were glossed over. He himself canonized and beatified more than every other pope combined. That's another wild stat. How could that be? Well, first, he was pope for a really long time. Second, his travel belied his intention to make the Catholic Church more universal. Visiting some place, preaching, and then canonizing local saints is a great method for reviving interest in your institution. In the past year or so, he has been implicated in the Catholic clergy sex scandal. According to a report from the Vatican itself, he too often turned a blind eye or sought unity despite grave moral failures. He was vilified by progressives for his conservative views on gender roles in the church, for instance. And he was hated by some conservatives for what they saw as his progressive views, which were few, but he was in favor of those Vatican II reforms. Love him or hate him or remain ambivalent about him, today we remember the face of the Catholic Church in the late 20th century, and the Pope that ushered the Catholic Church into the 21st century. Today we remember Pope John Paul II on Pope John Paul II Day in Poland, this the 16th of October. The last word for today comes from Matthew 23. We read, "But you shouldn't be called rabbi, because you have one teacher, and all of you are brothers and sisters. Don't call anybody on earth your father, because you have one Father who is heavenly. Don't be called teacher, because Christ is your one teacher. But the one who is greatest among you will be your servant. All who lift themselves up will be brought low, but all who make themselves low will be lifted up. This has been the Christian History Almanac for the 16th of October, 2021, brought to you by 1517 at 1517.org. This show is produced by a man whose favorite papas include John, Smurf, and the other half of the mamas. He is Christopher Gillespie. The show is written and read by a man whose favorite John Pauls include the sailor and the bassist. I'm Dan Van Voris. You can catch us here every day. And remember that the rumors of grace, forgiveness, and the redemption of all things are true. Everything is going to be okay.